Hey, everybody, welcome. We just completed our 46 episode adventure through the Tribor Trail, facing dragons, spiders, the Red Brand, were-rats, and many more as we completed our homebrewed version of the Lost Mine of Phandelver. It's been a week or so since, about a week since we wrapped up the adventure, so we thought we'd take a moment to reflect on that game. Before we continue, there will be spoilers for all 46. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but all 46 episodes can potentially be spoiled, including the epic conclusion. So if you're still in the midst of journeying through the adventure, come back to this video once you're all done to avoid those spoilers. So spoiler warnings all around. Who knows what we're going to talk about, but whatever it is, you may be like, oh.
Or you could just watch the video with your hands over your ears going la 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 la.
It'll give us the view, but then you can go watch the rest of it after.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so we're clear on spoilers.
Yeah, we're clear on spoilers.
Because you just listed a bunch of enemies right there, but the one I think you didn't say in there was a Red Wizard.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But yes, that's coming. The Red Wizard. Here we go. So first, thanks to everyone. First, thanks to everyone who joined us on our adventure. This was our first 5e adventure, as well as our first successful foray into YouTube. So I went back and watched some of the earlier episodes, and boy, there were some of those episodes were pretty rough on the technical end and stuff like that. You know, it is what it is.
It's a learning curve, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tools for D&D and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we just switched to 5e too. So yeah,
it was tough. Yeah, but the bones of what we wanted to do were there, which is that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So thanks for sticking it out through those rough early patches and sticking and watching all of our episodes with us. So there as many as you could. I'm sure that not everybody watched 100%, and that's fine.
I did.
Yeah.
Well, still the comments were pretty good. So
yeah,
content is there and it's working.
Yes, and I want to open up our discussion. We're just kind of going to hang out and to kind of talk a little bit about our adventure, just to kind of follow up with it. So first, I kind of wanted to get just a general sense of how everybody was feeling, like after a week, kind of hanging back. And we'll get to the ending, so we don't need to like go details into the ending. But I just want to talk about the rest of the adventure, the whole 46 weeks of adventuring, and also I invite anybody else to post your own answers to any questions we ask here. So give us your opinions. So I just want to get like the general feeling for how everyone felt after 46 weeks of adventuring.
It was a longest campaign I've ever participated in, that's for sure.
Yeah, same here.
There's a lot of variety of areas. It felt like we really covered an awful lot of distance with our characters.
For sure.
And it might be interesting to go back and write down like exactly how much in-game time passed, because it felt like it must have been over a month at least, right?
Oh, yeah, it was a good part of the summer, I'm sure, once we do all of the math. I didn't keep detailed books on it because it was just for fun, and I wasn't so measuring it out. But it would be fun to think about. Maybe let's give somebody else somebody from home and probably do that. They're probably like, I know exactly what it was. They're yelling at the tape to you now. You fools! It's your
46
game.
days.
It's say exactly what it was.
Fairly close. I definitely was enjoying the town, like getting learning all the people that lived in there, and then like even like Garielle in particular, where she was like kind of a focal point whenever we came into town.
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt like we had a home there as we evolved, and
yeah, it was like a living, breathing town. It was it drew us in for sure.
I remember like the last few times we walked back into town, we were thinking, all right, what is happening here? What changed this time?
What blew up this time?
Yeah, literally, what is on fire this time? Are there any dragons this time around? No? Anybody getting murdered? No? Great day. Let's go to the tower.
Mr. Incredible when he's like coming back. I just cleaned up this place 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't always something bad, but it was trying to always had something colorful happening.
Yeah,
like
I liked it.
Yeah, like
when the color of the festival,
all the
high summer festival or whatever it was.
Yeah, remember the ogre who Halia, who wanted to just she thought it was hilarious that she scared you. She thought that was the most fun part.
And the treachery of Jorlans.
Oh, the treachery of Jorlans. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not actually treachery.
We'll ask about that for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad everybody's in good moods. I had a great time with it as a game master, as I said at the end of it. So I wanted to ask you some bigger character questions. So in what ways did your character change that was different than you expected? Without going to the ending part, but like just overall your arc of your character. What do you think might happen?
Mine's easy. Martial arts was awesome. Sword.
That was cool.
That's a big change.
Did you like that? I mean, I know it was awesome when you're in it, but I always get nervous about just throwing curveballs where I change your character. Yeah.
Well, sorry. Go ahead.
You did lean into it.
It's great. Yeah, I love curveballs like that. I'm never too attached to an idea of a character where I can't run with the improv.
Yeah, nice. I loved how you leaned into it.
How did you feel when I described it inside of the Wayback Cave when I suddenly said your character changed? And what was your first initial reaction?
I was hyped up because I was figuring he was going to come out at some point during the boss, but when it was like initially ready to go in the cave, I was ready to go. I was like, oh yeah, here we go.
I kind of figured if you're going to be this character, you're going to have a time. You want to live with it for a couple times. You don't want it just to show up and be one battle at the end.
Exactly.
Well, your character changed in a pretty drastic way, and I think the other one that changed as drastically, maybe three of us did, but Gashar did too. Mm-hmm. He had a demi-shade template applied. I had to go back and remind myself how it happened, but there was a weird mirror jail that he got into.
That was actually, I was going to say, that was one of my favorite adventures. Yeah. That cool dungeon with like the tree roots and like the crazy mirror that messed up Gashar.
That's 100% homebrew content there. And
awesome.
Glad you liked it. I was a little nervous about that one too, because it was had a different feel than the rest of the adventure. You know what I mean?
Spooky. I liked it.
Yeah. Spoopy.
So it wasn't so much about the hit points because the monsters weren't necessarily so bad that you couldn't defeat them, but just what side effects could happen. Flipping the coin.
It could have been any of you turning demi-shade.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, and
I think you kind of designed that for Gashar. So thanks, but yeah. It would have been funny if somebody else had it.
Well, I mean, if you would have overcome it so easily or did something completely where somebody else was in its way, it could have happened to somebody else. Just like I didn't plan the sword for Mashalas to go to Finis. I sort of had ideas of how I wanted to do it. It didn't work how I thought it would be, and that was totally okay. Sometimes
I think technically with the dual wielder feat, I could have put that into my sword rotation.
Absolutely.
And it would have returned to you too, apparently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, there were many options of how things could happen in the game. As a game master, I don't ever throw in something with an idea that the one person has to do something.
And clearly, Wrath had a few changes.
Yeah. I liked her progression. I liked how she grew. Right.
Were you planning on any of that with the name changes and the sort of the dumping your patron?
In the book, they talk about tieflings not really trusting anyone because nobody trusts them, right?
But they choose their names, right?
They do. They choose their names, and they're usually rather simple or they're meaningful to them in some way. So Waif started off as just a little waif, just a little slip of nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And then she was a champion. Giving her background, she was an urchin, right?
Yeah.
So her thing was she liked children. She protected children because that's what she did in Neverwinter. She would protect the homeless children, the little scamps there, right? So that was kind of her role. That's how her vision. And then when that one was taken, the little girl was taken. I can't remember the name.
From Phandelver.
From Phandelver.
Right.
And was threatened. That's when she became Wrath.
Nice.
Right? Because she's like, no, this is never going to happen again, blah, blah, blah. And then
now we got a crew that can help.
Yeah, exactly.
Go freaking take care of this business.
And she started really coming to rely. So attachment, emotion, affection was weakness to her.
Yeah.
Right? So she was loath to
angry wrath.
Yeah, she was loath to let anyone know that she had a great deal of fondness for all of the characters.
Nice.
So, and then the thing with Tamora happened,
right?
And she became Fortuna, which I think it's
she rejected her bond or whatever it was called.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I as trying to introduce your characters' concepts, backgrounds into a pre-generated story that wasn't built for your characters. It was kind of difficult, and I didn't want to make whole adventures swayed back and forth to one individual because it was such an epic thing. But I tried to like throw slices of individual pieces for everybody, so everyone felt like they had a little moments that were theirs. So anybody else have any characters change in unexpected ways?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Eck came in feeling really low on himself, and he got his confidence back from Tiona. I expected that. I did not expect a love interest. That was something I've never played out in D&D before, ever.
That was good.
Yeah, I liked it. It was a lot of fun.
And sometimes it could feel like you're like, oh, we're a bunch of guys here just having fun with this game, and it's weird to have that. But you can play it out in a very descriptive way without being weird. It's still fun, and you get your character and influence and everything else, and it makes it really you really feel like an experience that your character can have. So
I always loved coming back to town, and she's there, and then the guys are just in Fortuna are just like, you gonna go out this time?
You gotta hassle them a little bit.
So we talked about that. So and that was one of the reasons why I had that doppelganger turn into Jorlins, because I knew that would be a big abruptive moment. Like you're turning the corner, and like what would be the least thing you're expecting?
Yeah. Her face planting onto the cliff floor. That's what was least expected.
Well, the thing is,
we now call that pulling in Jorlins, right?
Yeah, and they do. Well, they have ways of acting out their stuff. So that's what they were doing. I was rolling to see if she could decide to deceive you, right?
Sure.
Then Cameron had a great way to counteract it, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, he figured it out.
So what's going into that? We talked about that and said who was your favorite NPCs in the game that you liked? And it doesn't matter if they're just whatever. Favorite is from a player, not from your character's perspective.
Sure.
Yeah, he was
Harbin.
Did you like Harbin?
Yeah, I really liked Harbin. I thought he was a really cool
I liked to hate him.
villain. I liked that he was able to use the society around us as a shield, because you can't just hit all of his supporters with swords. That's not going to help the town.
Right.
Certainly tried.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. There's a blunt way that I think we eventually did sort of expose him to the city. But that was he was an interesting enemy just because he was part of the town.
Yeah, we had like a battle of charisma, right? At one point, and I don't think we did very well.
No.
Well, remember that he had that gem, that pendant that gave him
people listened to him more because of that magical thing, and that was really tough to deal with.
I like that. I liked him for the same reason, because it wasn't just because he was like numbers wise had more hit points than you did or had a better armor class. Is because he literally took away the town that you were trying to support from you. Yeah, which was I love the idea of that.
He had a political shield,
right? Yeah,
and he stirred up the more violent members of the city, which happens a lot.
That's for sure.
I really liked. There was this one. He was only in one episode, but that guy who in the town where we met Minsk, the shop owner that just kept trying to make us buy these high level, super expensive magic items, and we're like, we can't do that. I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah,
I love that guy.
I have to go look him up because I think that's one of those things that just gets made up on the spot, right? That you come in and do it.
Is that where I got the crossbow?
Yeah, it was where you got the hand crossbow.
Yeah, we did get something nice from him.
And in fact, so much so that the next week when I knew you were going to go back to them, I had to watch the video to see what the couple days before we played to make sure I remembered how he was played, because I just made him up. But sometimes that's a real fun thing when you just like throw something, a curveball out there or something random, and it turns out to be one of your funniest parts or one or more.
Yeah.
Who's the lady that ran the Lions Coster.
Lenine.
Yeah.
I liked the play with her sort of hating on the orcs and how we had sort of already bonded with them, and then a lot of us were not human or
only one
was an elf.
Yeah, it was
we were
only
a
me.
ragtag.
Like human and elf were kind of like the two most, I don't know, it just feels like the two most sort of common or friendly, maybe
Most
dwarves
common.
too. Yeah, but just
Depends
like
on-
in
depends on
Neverwinter
the
in the area, yeah. And so like we had some characters that were of races that were not as common, and I could imagine, and sort of played into that, like the idea of that they would probably have felt some racism over their time of living in these areas, and your tiefling background that you talked about that a minute ago. But I could imagine Gashar feeling that too, and so like the idea of bonding with orcs and like recognizing that they're just as good of creatures to live in the area and work with and trade with and stuff seems very reasonable. But she was also so hard against them. So that was like I think it was a nice like back and forth.
Lenine's a hard character, and what I loved about Lenine as a character is that her. So in all my characters, I give them sort of like reasons to do things, and that reasons could be good reasons or bad reasons. But her reasoning was all about the a solid direction to have a growth of economy in the town.
That would make sense. If the mine was the towns and not the orcs, it'd be better for the profits for the town.
So when the Red Brand were bleeding everybody dry and taking away from the town, she was very against the Red Brands and pro you.
Yep.
But then when there was a gold mine that was not being fed to the town, then she was suddenly not for you, right? Yep. So that's the cool thing about NPCs is that they're not always your friend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, that was good.
Yeah.
I felt like we kind of felt that pretty well with the orcs themselves. Like those first few encounters out in the wilds were very tense.
Yep.
But that's also because in retrospect, we met that party that we ended up killing up in the Icefire Peak.
Yeah,
we met the Stone Cold Reavers in a very similar way.
They are now Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Tense meeting on the road between parties of warriors, essentially, and
I'm very happy
that went different than the orcs.
I'm very happy I put them in there. I'm very happy I put them on the road.
Yeah,
because it was nice to
foreshadowing.
Yeah, you got it. Just like the orcs, because I remember that meeting, and I think it was Digneg who you met. He was talking about the dragon.
Yep.
And he came in and he was very much like cautiously approaching you, like, well, what should I do? That was really fun. That was a lot of NPC interaction that I didn't think was going to happen.
Speaking on the Stone Cold Reavers, I kind of liked them as like almost an antithesis to us as a party. Because like when we took out two of their members, the final two were like, I don't care. They were just paying us. Where it's like if one of us went down, we would do whatever we could to help them.
Yeah, kind of did.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah, it just felt like they were kind of the opposite of us.
That's a good way to think. I didn't think of it that way, but you're right. It is like they're very much mercenaries for themselves, and you guys were a cohesive party, except the fact that two of you ran off on your own to fight them. But
stinking horses, man.
We are known to do that.
Yeah, we're not
although not at that
fighting force.
I think Gashar was not the one running off that time.
You're right.
No, it was Eck and Wrath.
Yeah.
Because Wrath was going to let him go alone.
Yeah. I found my one time I can move faster than somebody else. I'm doing it.
You had flight, yeah.
Oh man, and the other time just trudging along in heavy armor.
Flight was always a power trip. I think every time one of us had it cast on us, we just decided we needed to use all 60 feet of that.
Absolutely.
Yep. You're like sticking your chin out and like just flying extra hard.
Yeah, it was cool how much movement defined the battles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is rare, is not common for 5e.
Yeah, 5e is very much the they say it's just stand there and swing, which it can devolve into pretty quick. And I think we had some of that, but I think we had enough dynamic battles to make that it didn't feel like it was a problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had Gashar.
Yeah, we also had some high movement characters.
Ping pong ball and a in a shoebox.
That was fun to pull sometimes. There's a few times where he was able to like leap off of high places and like roll. I remember one battle where we were outside and it was like a keep, I think. There's like a tower in the middle and the walls around the outside were like a little bit crumbly, but they're mostly intact. And he like was way over here at the beginning and you guys were all over here. And you had walked down and ended up getting beat by some ogres, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, Shrine of Sabras.
Shrine of Sabras.
Yeah. Yep. So it was that spot, but that's one of those moments where I remember him just like really shining with how fast he could run and then like jump and roll and get right back into it with you guys, even though he was fighting one of the guys off. I think he pushed an archer off or something.
Yeah.
Off the other corner.
Yeah, for sure. And what I try to do in this game is putting it together from an DM perspective is I tried to make the monsters not so linear. Yep. You know, I mean, try to make the spaces so as you moved east or west, you're pulling them in. Some of the adventure was just right out of the book, but a lot of it was just modified because mostly because of requirements because you guys were higher level at the time.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I liked Flanders, all his performances. Yeah. That was really fun, especially when you created the songs that you sang. That was really fun too.
Or your vicious mockery sayings.
Oh yeah.
Good ones. Maybe a little limericks or something too.
Yeah, that's for sure. So we talked about that. So were there any NPCs that you kind of met that didn't really work for you as players, like that were kind of like clumsy, didn't feel like they were great? Just out of curiosity.
Does awkward count? Because I was having a really fun time being awkward with Quellen.
Yeah.
He's like, I got a little crush on her. Like that was fun, but yeah, I don't think that counts as being like not working. It did work. I think it did work for her.
Well, when I first had that character come in, I kind of evolved her slightly because I wanted her to be sort of the opposite of you. She was like the town awkward person.
Yeah.
Like, where she would, but she, and where you were kind of off doing stuff, she was more like the town mom, but she was also willing to say some crazy, weird stuff that was just not appropriate. So I thought that was funny. Yeah. So I kind of evolved her as like your opposite. So it's kind of funny that you brought that up. Yeah. Anyway,
it's not that I didn't like that, but I just feel like we never really got to know Gundren or his deal all that much before he got kidnapped and disappeared for like 30 of the episodes.
For most of the series, right? Because he was kidnapped, and then like we knew him a little in the beginning, and then he was gone. And then we didn't have him, but then he stayed back because he's not a good fighter.
Yeah, it could have been.
He's not really around, right?
It would have been nice to have him there. In the original Lost Mine game, you start on the road. I've never even met Gundren.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and then you find him, and he's not really a fighter. He probably shouldn't go with you.
Yeah, like businessman sort of.
Yeah.
They don't give you a whole lot of information about him and his brothers, but they give you basically. I think I gave you all the information they had, but you never really had a good interaction with him.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I could see that as being like if I was going to do it all over again, I would definitely probably make.
There were a handful of times I think where our characters were standing around going, now, we took a job for this guy, but it's gone way out of hand. Like, where do we actually stand vis-a-vis our employment with Gundren?
Did he ever pay us? Like, come on. Come on, Gundren.
Maybe. I don't think the point was ever... I think by that point, we had bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a plot. I think it's like a plot hole with the whole Gundren branch. I think it could have been implemented better overall in the original module, and I could have probably did something better. But I just kept having like what happens is you guys are going off on these tangents and doing stuff, and then next thing you know, I'm like, oh, I should have did something with them. So
sure.
The first set of people that we sort of found in Phandelver, where they were like basically the Red Brand guys, but like floppy hat guy, right?
Did we ever find out his name? I don't think we did.
No, you never did.
And he's dead now, so too late.
You never found out Flop, and I just love the fact that you never found out what his name was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where I was going with it. Was like those guys were like pretty thin, but I think it worked out really well. Like they were just like obviously causing trouble in town.
Right. It's kind of like the West. Like so, I approached the Red Brands and that whole thing more like a Western.
Yeah, they're kind of set dressing. You walk in and there's just a bunch of local toughs.
and they like to say tough things or quirky things or awkward things to you or sinister things to you, but they don't really have much of a
go mind your own business.
Yeah.
There's the weird guy with the knife. There's the big mean looking guy. There's the one guy chewing tobacco. Like,
then there's the one that sees you and runs off into the next room, and you see him disappear. You're like, oh, man.
Bandits are kind of necessary for fantasy tropiness, right?
I really liked Finnis when Finnis was in the Sleeping Giant, and he was having that conversation with that with Red Brand, and that Red Brand was trying to get you guys to leave town to go after the orcs. Because the whole point is they didn't really want to fight you. They just wanted you to leave town. Like, go get them. Let's have you go off and go look at the orcs, and then we'll be able to run stuff for longer and deal with you later. But I like it. You're tired and you drink it up and you slam your cup down. Somebody hit somebody with a mug. It was fantastic.
It was awesome. And then half the burnt bar burned down.
Okay, that's just allegedly.
That's par for the course.
If you don't burn down a bar, are you really playing D&D?
So we covered this a little bit, but I just want to know if you feel free to shout out your favorites. What combat overall was the one that you think is? I mean, obviously we'll save the ending for the ending, but what combat overall was your favorite? Like the one that remember you can think back and go, that was a lot.
The dragons.
See, the dragons were great, but I was going to bring up the zombie horde after Venom Fang was amazing. That
zombie
was so
horde
cool.
Was something I've never
we got
seen
holed up in
that
building.
Yeah,
we got on a roof, and I did a big.
There was a lot of zombies.
Destroy undead.
It was such a cool visual. I've Egg's holding the door, and you guys just boom, boom, everything's gone.
People are falling through the ceiling.
They're climbing up the building.
They're failing sometimes, but some of them got up. That was what surprised me, I think, too, about it. Was that
some of them got up there.
You were rolling a bunch of them, and like 1 out of 4 actually made it up there.
I'm glad you liked it.
I remember Hemo was in a completely different building taking pot shots until they started absorbing it, going into his building, and he zip line down or something.
Yeah.
I think I had the grappling hook set up so that I could climb out.
Yeah, that was such a cool combat.
Yeah, that whole combat is all just the ash zombies that are there are part of the adventure, but there are only a few of them in town. And I thought, you can't have a bunch of zombies without having a horde. So the moment the dragon by itself, I didn't think it was going to be a mega end game ending combat for you guys. Were you guys going to be,
it was almost a Hemo ending combat.
The breath weapon was tough.
But I knew that the moment that dragon went down, because he was going to make a bunch of noises and gather all the zombies to come in, that you guys would have been spent from that. And then you had to face the zombies. So that was cool. Mm-hmm. But I do remember Ek just against the door, you're not coming in, and the ceiling collapsing in and everything else.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
I did like the other, I think it was the large house on the east end of Phandelver where Glassstaff was, and the
Tresender
Manor. Yeah. Because of there were zombies down there too, right? Or skeletons. We were fighting, and there was pit traps, and there was there
was a lot of cool secrets in that.
Well, they had the red cloaks, right? So they were immune to the skeletons from just wearing those red cloaks. So just to jump forward a little bit, we encountered them later wearing red cloaks, right? Near the end, and so I remember Gashar going I'm going to take that, probably going to wear this next time we encounter some more zombies. And I think we didn't very many after that, but it was that was a cool sort of puzzly fight as well that I liked. Yeah,
I wish that the original Lost Mine of Phandelver actually tied in the Red Wizards at the end, because that's not the real bad guy in the end of the adventure. But I thought with the red cloaks being such a prominent item, and then the fact that you do meet a Red Wizard of Thay in the Old Owl Well, that's a real thing. I thought it just seemed so much more interesting that at the very end, these cloaks and these things kind of chain all the way up the end, so it was more fun that way. The original bad guy he's fine, but he never really shows himself. He doesn't become a presence. So
you can kind of see his web having taken shape here.
Right.
In this world. So that was cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then let's see.
Definitely caught Hemo unawares with his schemes.
My God.
So we talked about our favorite combat. So we talk about what our favorite locations, just settings. We had a bunch of different settings that we had. Kind of, what was your favorite setting of overall of the adventure? What do you guys think?
I really liked that where we found the ghost.
Yeah.
What was her name?
I forget her name now.
It was like north of the Hobgoblins, like controlled little town, right? We had to get a comb. Is that what you were talking about?
Yep.
Yeah. Agatha with the ghost name.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I just that was cool. Trekking through the woods to find a little clearing where there's a ghost who scares everyone away.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, and then somebody you actually were trying to like woo her at one point, if I remember correctly.
Wasn't that Flander?
No, Flander tried to
and failed.
You rolled a one, but you lied.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You're like, oh, but you're so beautiful, and she's just like, ah!
Yeah, it's basically that's the one key. If you lie to her and she freaks out on you, it's hilarious.
That was a cool place.
Yeah, that was fun. So any other locations that stood out to you as being extra cool? I mean, I know they all were kind of fun, but
I mean, that mountain climb was
a
lot.
Cool.
That was
White
cool.
Dragon, yeah.
And the trolls we had to go through to get there.
The ice troll combat was a lot of fun with the bridge.
The stupid trap before we got to that.
Oh my God.
Man, that slowed us down so much.
That one climb trap.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
it was just the trap that slowed us down because we got out of it pretty quickly. But then we thought I remember me as a player seeing the tiny path that we're like walk through and like curls around the whole thing. And there's one trap and I'm like, well, definitely gonna be more traps now. I mean, if I was setting up, like, if I was actually creating a keep and there's a path, I'd be like, yep, we're putting 20 traps on here because why not? It'll slow them down. It'll injure whoever is attacking. So, I was like, yeah, there's definitely, and there ended up being kind of one more, right?
There was some more hiding in the leaves by the entrance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is that where?
Well, there was the rockfall.
The rockfall with Hemo trapped.
Yep. Yeah. I fell down so many cliffs during that campaigin. It's not even.
It started a trend.
That trend had been continuing for a long time. I think what it is I had athletics proficiency as a fighter, but as a dex-based fighter, it really wasn't that good.
Right.
I liked having to summon the demon in the magic circle.
Oh yeah,
that was fun.
Oh, Tamor's observatory.
Yeah, that was wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that felt like one of the like super high magic encounters you have in like Skyrim when there's just some crazy set piece making crazy magical lights and you've got to do some puzzle with it.
Yeah, it was definitely a CRPG cool kind of moment for sure.
I was on that moment. I was thinking like Gandalf versus the Balrog at the top of the mountain and stuff like that. Kind of gave me like that idea.
Yeah. I thought that whole setup with that map I bought during the pandemic time, and we had bought a super huge bundle, and I found that map, and I'm like, I love this map. I have to use it somewhere, so that's where it came from, and it was fantastic. So
I also really liked the assaulting the cathedral with the silver bell. Like that was like a very long, like drawn out combat where you had to just be very tactful.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's where we spotted the other dragon for the first time too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like at the end when the creature I forget what it was, Chimera
was fighting a Manticore.
It was Manticore. Manticore jumps up, he's circling around, it's like, I'm gonna kill you. And then all of a sudden that dragon like takes it out, and you're like, there's always a bigger fish.
Well, I guess we'll stay
That's the part in the Borderlands game where it slows down and they get a title splash for Cryovane, the White Dragon.
That's exactly.
Like, I'm going to fight you at the end of this level. I just know it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, I just wanted to know, we didn't have a lot of magic in this game because we are level 8, so not level 20. But did anybody have any favorite standout magic items or magical events that they encountered throughout the adventure that stood out that was really cool? Whether it's something for your character or another character.
The apes.
Being able to make people into shape changing them.
Yeah, turning yourself into a big apes and running up and
climbing up the cliff face.
The cliff
face. That battle was amazing. That whole 3-dimensional thing where you had, that was really cool.
Yeah, we had to climb up the side and you had people shooting down at you. And then once you get to the top, then you had all these things happening. So some of you were climbing up and some of you were flying.
Yeah, that's why we were so burnt out on the inside of that cave, is that first fight was a doozy.
Yeah. That was the Wave Echo Cave, and so we can kind of reach to the ending of it now. So we can talk about the ending, ending and stuff. And
well, I just want to say, magic item wise, the it's not quite magic items, but the influence of Tamora, the coins, the cups, the shrine itself, even though the shrine technically didn't do anything. It felt
that though, right?
Yeah, it felt really cool to have those divine items.
Have luck on our side.
Yeah, luck on our side. It made it feel like actual.
Yeah, and like you earned something.
Made it feel different from the arcane stuff, you know?
Yeah, when they gave you the coins and they came floating out, it was because you guys did stuff for the town and all the things, and like you earned them. It wasn't just like some random, just something you found, but something you earned, which I think makes you feel a lot better. It was really cool that everyone had coins. You had a countdown. You had 3 uses, right? And then
I kept trying to refill it.
Yeah. I think we would be remiss not to mention Finis's shield.
Yeah.
So good.
That shield was so good. In combination with your perception.
With the
oh my God.
Yeah, Mike, that was a pretty good placement. You should have this.
I see everything.
I remember distinctly. We're like,
yeah, I love that shield. That was fun.
That did help a bunch of times though, being able to spot things.
One of the ones I thought was really fun, which wasn't a huge impact in the math of the game, was the Rod of Secrets. I like that.
Oh yeah. It just it felt fun to have. I ended up trying to prioritize taking the magic items that weren't weapons once I had a 2-sword setup, because it's a pretty simple game plan there.
Right.
So I thought it was fun to take the cloak of know what direction and what the weather is going to be like, and the boots of the Winterlands, and
that cloak, actually you used it a few times too.
Yeah, it was useful a few times.
Yeah, I like how it just burrowed,
but the revealing wand gave me something to do while I wasn't killing things in a dungeon. It improved Hemo's usefulness, I think, quite a bit.
That's cool.
Yeah, I definitely liked pairing up the booming blade thing with like Glassstaff, and then being able to teleport in. So if somebody was really mobile, that was like it gave him another strategy for combat. So and sometimes it's really tough if you're fighting something that was flying. Like Yashar just couldn't get up there. So that sort of thing gave him an opportunity if he could just get within range. Something was moving on. Like, all right, you have a little bit different strategy to get a hit in while they're moving along.
Get a little extra.
Yeah,
get a little extra. So that was a pretty fun weapon that had a couple different ways of being used. Yeah,
I changed a little bit of how the original staff was to add some juice to it, the Glassstaff, because I figured he's kind of a memorable bad guy. Glassstaff himself wasn't as one of the wizards who was going to just stand toe to toe to you and just blast you.
Oh, he ran off.
He was more like a planner. He was another. He used his minions to do, as it is a lot of leaders, right? Leaders aren't necessarily leaders because they can blow things up. They're leaders because they're smart. So I really like Tresender Manor when you guys had he's used all of his minions to get to put himself open a path for himself so that he could get out. Yeah. And it was like, I wonder if they're going to make it. It's interesting. So, yeah.
I loved how we took him out, though.
Yeah. Well, I love how you took him out.
Yep.
He's like, screw it, I'm going to hit you. And he hits you and you're like, boom. You took him out with him.
Yeah. She drew an attack of opportunity.
Yeah.
Because she was out of spells otherwise.
Yeah. 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 Well, the whole rat infested nature. I mean, the thing about this game, which is different than a lot of D&D games, especially ones you see on YouTube, is it really is drawn out. Like you guys go through several days of several adventuring meetings to go through, like when you went through the Mountain's Toe mine, how full it was, how many bad guys, all these rats with all these different spell effects and cleric effects and things like that. It's something you don't really see a lot on, because in YouTube, it's like they want you to just have a lot of talking and just a very few, because combat's supposedly not fun.
Yeah, we'll stick with the shorter, like bigger ones.
Right. Let's do the one hit.
Shorter, more impactful. Yeah.
Right. So, I just went into it saying we're going to play this game how we always play it, and then if people like it, that's awesome.
Some of those caves felt very satisfying to pick apart.
Mm-hmm.
Right, going around the corner, and then you got two ends here and here, and you're trying to meet up and stuff. So cool. Well, anything else before we talk about the one big thing at the end, the whole spoiler stuff at the end? Well, so
I think we got to talk about the ending.
Yeah, we got to talk about the ending. So the ending was so way back. Okay, but it was designed for you to have about 3 different paths that you possibly could take through. You ended up actually taking almost all of them,
pretty much,
because you kind of went up and around. And so what I thought was going to be a 2.5 night adventure, I think it was turned out to be 4.5 nights. So, and it's totally fine, because this is what D&D is all about, doing all the different stuff. And I think Way Back Okay was fun because it had so many different mini things going on with it. It didn't have like one big cohesive, let's fight this baddie.
Right.
Like, it just wore you down. And that's the theme about the whole, it kind of summed up the theme of this whole adventure, which was just wearing you down.
And there was some variety too, like the zombies and the other creatures that were up on the they're like demon blobs, right?
Oh God,
and
I hate
the spiders. Demon spiders.
Well, he's talking about the demonic ooze.
Yeah, the oozes, and then there's a trap room with the gas in there that was just like.
And I didn't use a lot of traps, so I didn't really use a lot of traps in this game. If you noticed, there was overall thing. There was a few sections or places that had traps, but not a lot. But I knew that door where you could push it open. I was like,
that one room got us, and we didn't actually try it again.
Like, I could just see you though, like putting a little etch of the spider on the door and be like, they're definitely going in this room.
I know.
We're gonna go in that room. Like,
I literally described like a 3-year-old etching a spider, and you're like, that's got to be it. That's got to be the room.
That's his office. Come on.
So there are times when you're writing an adventure that you just know the players are going to do something, and then you don't know, but you kind of feel like they're going to do it, and then when they do it, there's a little part of you that's just very satisfied, because your baddies are going to die. Things are going to happen. That's not the game. The game is to see what the players do.
When we first encountered the spider, right?
Yeah, it was in
the room with all those cobwebs, the crazy cobwebby room, and I know you drew all that stuff in yourself. For a moment, I thought that the statue that was like kind of Buddha-ish, I guess, sitting in the top part, and you said I had glowing eyes and stuff. For a moment, I was thinking maybe the spider was actually like part of that, and it was sort of projecting through minions to do all of the bidding and stuff. I'm like, are we gonna have to beat the crap out of a statue? Is that what we're gonna be doing here?
Well,
I thought we were going to have to destroy the Spellforge itself, so I was getting ready to start dealing damage to a piece of stone.
Yeah,
nice.
Same.
Yeah, I wanted to, the thing is, all those ones are good ideas, but I find it to be less fun for players, like some inanimate object that you're beating against while it's attacking you. I like there to be like a human or a functional.
Yeah, the red brand guy, or the wizard apprentice who was in the room, like clearly got their focus first, and then he made himself known off to the side.
Right.
So that worked. That kept us from beating up a statue.
I won't give away a lot of unknown secrets, but I will say this: the one thing in that chamber is that statue with the glowing eyes. It had one magical effect, and it allowed the person who was attuned to it to see as if you were using wizard eye, and talk as if you're using in the whole place anywhere inside of Way Back Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's how he was doing that.
Right. So he basically always knew where you were at, and he always could speak with you. And that was like the one thing he had. That was like and that was actually built by the dwarves. So it's in the shape of the dwarves. So that the original people of that area. So
I thought about trying to destroy the statue, because I thought that's what was letting him see everything. And I'm like, when Fortuna was going to teleport away or dimension door away, she was going to say, destroy the eyes.
Right.
Because
that would have been helpful, because then I wouldn't have had to be able to use all my Is it he literally could just as a bonus action, but as a bonus action, he could find out, look and see where everybody was in the cave. He literally could be like, okay. So yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of them to do some cool stuff. There were a number of things about the adventures that, surprisingly, for all the stuff you found, there's a lot of stuff that you just didn't, and that is part of every adventure. As a DM, it's weird.
There's a few red doors we didn't go through.
Yeah, but that red door would have been bad to go through. I'm just letting you know. Very.
Yeah.
That's okay. Some red doors are best left unopened.
But that was fine. We
had enough trouble as it was, right?
Yeah.
We lost enough as it was.
Yeah, and I had a kind of a plan B if you guys decided you needed to flee and rest because you got too bad. There was another thing that could happen too. So it wasn't like you were locked in there. Just that we would have come back would have been even worse. Yeah. So
more demons.
Well, you would have cleared out the early stuff, but then the later stuff would have been he would have been able to do more stuff.
Reinforce his position a little bit stronger.
I was going to ask you, by the way, did you guys, before we get to the very, very ending part, did you like the final previously where you got to learn about cost? I didn't know how that played out.
Yeah, that was helpful. I didn't really have a full picture of what the heck he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually could find, and the reason is because there were many places that you could find stuff about him, but you never did. And so you kept missing and skipping all these things. And the very end, actually, in that spider room with the statue, he has a table there that has his manual and has a whole bunch of stuff on it that you could read. Nobody looked at any of it because they were so jacked up about, we
didn't have a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. No, and I mean, so if you would have stopped and let him go, then there would have been a whole different combat at the end.
Sure.
So there was all of your choices have choices. But I like the idea of the.
I felt that we needed to cut him off as soon as possible.
That made sense.
Clearly, right? Yeah. Like that's where Gashar ran off. But like he was. I felt like he was actively going to be going and summoning the demons like immediately, and apparently he was.
Yep.
So it was like, stop, like immediately. I don't want to fight any more demons.
Yeah. How'd you guys feel?
Yeah.
I really liked it. I did have a lot of fun where it was just like Mashalas is dealing with the demons as he does, and Flander and I are just getting hit with pot shots, and if all your images are going away, you're behind me, and I'm like, where is everybody? We need him back here.
It's just you two by yourselves.
And the thing is, Kost did exactly what he thought about you. He was going to get you all separated. And then go back and pick you off one by one.
Because we've never done that before.
Right.
No.
Right. So then we get to the very end. We get to, as you congealed,
you open the blue door,
as you merged onto the final battle. Kost was feeling a little overwhelmed, but thinking he could still win because you got there earlier than he was expecting. He was trying to do more things. Again, if you would have left and came back, would have been worse.
He did get one demon summoned in that room.
He did.
And we were kind of fighting.
You're welcome.
Thanks to Fortuna giving him a spell slot. So did you guys like the concept of the spell forge? Is it like they called it that because you would literally sap levels of spell slots from you to summon demons?
It made sense.
I like that.
Oh yeah, it was cool.
I did not like it. The demon summoning thing, not great. The lava.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that.
To jump 20 seconds.
The chase sequence, though.
But before we got to that, though, the fight in there ended up being fairly quick, though, right? Like
it did.
We had a fight, and then like Shar got teleported out of the room, which is kind of ironic that it was him.
I mean, we chased him running invisible for
and he did a lot of
time before then.
He did a ton of damage.
So I feel like us cornering him in there was just the climax of a really long, drawn out.
Yeah, if you would have been like a score, it would have been like like the big ending.
Yep,
and then of course the best ending shot of that whole thing was Ekankar coming in and critting and then smiting on, and just laying into this guy.
That's the way to finish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you want to nominate a magical weapon for the best one. I mean, that was the highest damaging magic item was the Warhammer of Helm.
Yeah, that thing was insanely clutch. It felt really cathartic to hit that crit because he was just like the thing with Jorlins just messed with his head so bad. So it just felt so good to make that big hit on him.
Yeah, that was
destroy his hammer.
That's why people play paladins.
Yep.
Yeah, he went from paladin to barbarian berserker.
real quick.
I just love the picture of him being launched back and the hammer, the glass hammer just shattering.
It's perfect ending for that guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then we get to talk about the final thing in the whole adventure. The thing that was the game within the game.
The Spellforge destroyed.
Yeah.
Falling into the ground.
So is that something you did?
Yeah, 100%.
Nice.
Yeah. You mentioned
the out of the game. I mean, before we talk about it, out of the game, the Spellforge just is a Spellforge in the Lost Mine of Phandelver where you go in there and it's old and it doesn't actually work, and it allows you to create. It creates like one magic plus one item or something, and then it's done. And then it basically becomes legend, and then
it's pretty basic.
Yeah, it's basic, and don't get me wrong. I mean, for a beginning group of adventurers, it's pretty epic or it's pretty cool. But I thought, you guys said you guys wanted something epic for this beginner adventure. I'm like, we did it.
I think so.
So that whole thing at the ending where the thing crossed, everything about the way of Echo Cave basically was replaced. I would say 80% of it. Some of the basic monsters, there were zombies there. There was the flame skull there.
That guy was funny.
That was a couple.
Yeah, I like that guy.
You said you pulled mechanics off of something for the escape. What was that?
The chase sequence.
There's just in D&D they have a basic chase sequence. What happens when you chase somebody? And I turn it into a fleeing sequence. So instead of chasing after somebody, you're fleeing from somebody.
Right.
And then I created a bunch of charts, and my charts were very basic. It was like, and it got progressively harder through the 12 rounds that you went through it. It got progressively harder, and then at the end, you had to start making saves for being exhausted.
Suffocated too.
Yeah.
We were one level of exhaustion away from losing 2 more people, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised how many people failed early. Like in the early ones, when they were like 10.
Yeah, that was rough.
Because that wasn't too hard. But if people were failing at 10.
Happens, though, yeah.
Right. And so what happened when you got to the end when it was like 18s and 20s, and I was like, good luck to you. Because I was expecting, my plan was that you'd fail some of the 18s and 20s and you'd leave with 1 or 2 points of exhaustion and,
Nope.
But that ended up being, I think, the most dangerous exhaustion mechanic I've ever seen in D&D.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's really dangerous, but no, it just doesn't get used all that often.
Flander just
not
couldn't
like
move.
that.
Yeah.
Could not move at the end, right? So then you
had to drag him.
You were at exhaustion, immobile, and I was moving. I counted it out. I was moving at 7.5 feet per. That was my movement speed, 7.5.
Yeah, half and half and half and half.
And in the real D&D chase
0.
rules, they have rules where you can be exhausted over so many rounds and whatever. So
yeah, Gashar didn't miss any of the exhaustions until he was fully pinned. He missed one. Sorry, he missed one of them, but it was just.
That's the irony of that, huh?
Yeah. Well, I will say, so as we get to the very ending of it, as you were fighting through the chase scenes, most of what I described to you as happening, as you can guess, is I was just like making it up on the spot. I was seeing the results, like, they take fails take 44 fire damage. Well, and then I would just describe
why is that?
Yeah, lava squirting up from somewhere,
because
et cetera.
I didn't know where you're going to be, so I wanted to make it whatever the event was that was happening. And I was having a good time with that. As a DM, it's fun to just look and go, this wall explodes, this thing collapses, it falls in.
I mean, the chase rules are kind of like that. There's like obstacles that are kind of random, and then there's like chase breakers, which a fleeing creature can use, which I don't know if that came into play.
There was a chase breaker, and one of the things that happened was what happened when Gashar failed. It's a 20-foot area and could have pulled more people down into it.
Right. I remember being happy that I was out like by myself and didn't pull anybody into that with me.
Yeah, because that would have.
Well, you didn't, not at the time, but
yeah.
Well, you didn't mean to.
And it covers you.
But if that had been next to where Flander was, because Flander was like in lava at that point, in like a hole, and trying to pull himself out with his magic gloves. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Big beefy Flander.
Fortuna was there helping him out.
Yeah. So you got him out. But if that had happened there, then he'd have been in lava and covered.
Yeah, there would have been curtains for like 4 of us.
Yeah, I really, as a DM, like, I don't go to kill you, but I go to put challenges in front of you guys, and I sort of like, I don't like change dice or fix dice. I roll them right there. You can see me.
Yeah.
And I think it's really fun that way. But I also don't make encounters that are generally overly deadly, like to the point where if you look in the math, like I don't know how they're going to surprise us on paper. It's made so it's reasonable, because I find that you guys don't always do the most productive. No, it's normal. The most productive thing
at all.
So sometimes you guys are your own worst enemies the first couple of rounds, right? Yeah. Until you figure it out. But for the chase one, you really were. I was really the enemy of you all the time. There's not a lot. There was the one time where I literally was like the DM versus you guys roll. This is it. And I didn't roll any dice. You guys basically, other than damage or whatever, you guys basically did the thing. So, but when you fell into that pit, I was actually not too concerned because
I wasn't either. I mean, I argued for
getting advantage, right?
I
was like, that makes sense.
Getting advantage to be able to get out with, that was with Fortuna's help, right? So there was like 2 advantages and 1 disadvantage effectively at the end of it. Right. But I even felt that made sense to be able to escape that a little bit easier, but just didn't have the strength.
And to be fair, the real rules of D&D, you wouldn't get advantage, because if you had 7 advantages and 1 disadvantage, it's 0. But I wanted the game to be epic, and I'm like, there's sometimes when you're first helping, you're gonna get. Let's just do advantage. Let's just give it to her.
The other way would have been that she could have just been trying to get me out separately, pulling the stones out, and then she's just rolling for getting me out. Yeah, and so you could have gone and pulled it either way.
Or even just
numerically,
just like getting his face open,
right?
Yeah, so he could.
You're just pulling a rock off. And
well, the problem was he was underneath a 20-foot pit, and he had to be able to see solid ground, a place to land, right? So he had, and so that was a challenge. So, but I mean, as long as he could get his head up, that's why he had advantage, right? So because you reminded me, you're like, I just couldn't blink out of there. And when he went down, I was like, well, the thing that's funny is that for me, when that chase scene, I'm like, the only person who's going to be very much not impressed with this chase scene is going to be Gishar, because honestly,
he did run all the way up and around, and then came around and met up with everybody, and then ran into their room again and came around the other way again. So yeah, he was definitely mobile, very much mobile.
And covered the whole place.
I think that Gishar's mobility actually was probably maybe his undoing, and the fact that he thought he was so free, like he had no concern.
It was a little ironic there.
Because you could have easily ran out and been out like an hour before everybody else.
I think we all trusted Gishar's mobility. Like we all were just like, yeah, go, you got this.
Yeah.
Well, and I was telling you all to move to get to the exit, and I would go look for the guy because I knew that I could catch back up, and Gishar did. What I didn't think to do was to go around at the front first and see if he was out there, and then run back in.
Right.
That would have been a different outcome.
Yeah.
But, that's how it plays out. I mean, he knew where he was earlier.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it made a lot of sense at the time.
Yeah, and me as a DM, I didn't really think about you chasing after him. The story was that he was going to be waiting for you up front.
Yeah.
That he managed to make it out. No matter how many minutes or whatever it took you, that was sort of like the story to have him make it out.
I do think it was really cool how much we all helped each other to get out. Out of this chase scene, and like you just mentioned, Fortuna helping get Flander out. I think there's a couple other moments with people helping people get up climbing up things faster.
Yeah, I got a little sick of us failing climb checks.
Yeah,
and just said, all right, I'm just going to aid all the climb checks.
Yep. And then there's somebody aids me. Dragging happened, and like it was definitely a multiple points where we were all sort of trying to help each other to get out.
Yeah, the exit point. And Graham was. I was just it was so cool that he got himself pulled down in that lava pit, and then everyone else was grabbing up against him. That was super fun. So yeah, there was a lot of elements to that were great. So I had no idea that Gishar would end up having, with advantage, needing. I think he needed a 12 or something like that. I can't remember if it was a 12 or a 13. It wasn't huge. It wasn't 19 or anything like that.
And right? I think one of the rolls was double ones.
You had double ones, and you had an 8 and you had an 8 and a 1 once, and you had double ones another time. And you didn't need to get a huge number.
No.
Right?
No. And it was so many low rolls. It's like, well, this is what happens.
I wonder if there was anything you could have said or did to make Fortuna leave.
No.
We talked about this a little bit.
Nope. When the thing first blew, right? When the hammer, lava, Fortuna was like, I'm out. She was just going to book.
Yeah.
And then as she's going along, right, she's like, I cannot. She would not have left anyone there.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. That's cool.
But eventually, we had to leave y'all there.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you did. I would have been really sad if everyone would have stayed to try to pull you up and then everybody died. Everyone finished. That would have been
that in itself would have been. I mean,
what an ending.
Yeah, I mean that's like like a gut punch ending. But there are movies that are like that.
I do.
Everybody dies.
Yeah. As I was a little bit sad when I was like, if you go back and watch the show, there's a point right before I say, when you're doing it, where I look at the thing and I'm just like, and I'm looking at my thing like, this is nothing like I was planning.
I feel like you might have given us an extra round near the end there to pull folks out. Like math wise, how fast they were getting out, it felt like it was sort of and we're gonna say that everybody gets out because it's close enough, and it makes sense because they're almost there and they're kind of getting out. And story-wise, it fits in really nicely, and it works.
For me, basically, you had to get everybody sort of close enough to the end, to the front.
Yeah, exactly, right.
If you look at the map, I drew kind of like
the last
this
obstacle.
Yeah, I drew this circle, and like if you get past this, if everyone gets past this line, then we can. And if you did that in 5 rounds, if you guys managed to just book ass through, then you would have won. You'd have all again.
A lot less exhausted there, Flander. If you'd got out in 5 rounds.
But it's very hard. I mean, I think I drew the because you were moving if you were just booking at 30, I think I did the math, but it was like 7 rounds if you just hauled ass and didn't have any complications.
But we got slowed down by all the complications, and then we were all moving half speed at least. And
the problem is the complications piled on top of each other, and everybody at the beginning really failed. I think there was like 3 passes in like 12 tries. It was kind of insane. Like I was thinking,
No, like I know immediately I was in lava the very first turn.
I was like, and we were hurt to begin with.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, we were out of juice.
That was the whole point, that you were going to be exhausted. Everything was going to be gone. You would have been like, boom, we did it. And all of a sudden you're like, but it's not over yet. That whole big, like the realization that this whole thing would have been for nothing if we don't get out of here. And I love the idea of I've seen many movies like that, right? Where it's like,
it feels like Indiana Jones, where everything's literally falling behind you. And it's time to run.
Time to go.
Yeah, where you're like the jumping out of the cave or the Millennium Falcon.
Yep. And
but there was the Poseidon Adventure. I don't know if anyone's ever seen. That's an old movie where it was like you had to get out, right? That whole thing was a big old chase scene, that entire movie.
Yeah.
Right. And there were people that didn't make it. There were people that sacrificed themselves for others and things like that. Like Armageddon. I mentioned that in the comments, where it's like, okay, a lot of people died in that movie. A lot of the heroes didn't make it. Right. Yeah. So that's why I was like, the ending was phenomenal in that sense, where there's like, especially since it didn't have to happen.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was completely pointless that happened.
Yeah. It was, because
he was out.
Yeah.
You didn't have to take all the time to do that. Right.
Like you said, like that's the thing. Like if you could have just run up and said, oh, he's here, let's get out. But that's the way it works sometimes. So so that's our Lost Mine of Phandelver game, and it was amazing, and I'm very happy we had a good time with it. Our group here, I know that Eric I think Zach is actually the last.
Zach's got the
newest.
Yeah. Zach's got new guy status.
Yeah, Eric started with us like several years ago, so way before that. So, but he's been around for a while.
2020, I think.
Yeah, something about that.
Yeah, it was during the pandemic when we were just starting to figure out how to work online.
Yeah, because some people couldn't make that and whatever. Yeah.
I think I'm coming up on a year because it was like right after Fest. Yeah, it was a little bit after Fest.
Yeah. So, but the point being is that we've been playing a long time, and we've actually finished several long campaigns. Mm-hmm. So it's really fun to hear people saying like, "This is my longest campaign." So that's awesome.
This is like the first campaign.
Well, yeah, we've done some mega long campaigns, but this was a combined story. A lot of those longer campaigns, we were at kind of a snail's pace at times because, we had no direction. Being that we were trying to make it concise, it was definitely a lot for the time we put into it for the year or whatever. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So anything else anybody wants to add before we kind of bring it home for the season, put this Lost Mine of Phandelver to bed and see what comes next?
No, I think it wrapped up really good.
That's good. I'm looking forward to more adventures with you guys.
Yeah, nice. Same here.
Once again, thank you, Alan, because that was phenomenal. Yeah. So much work that you put into it. So thank you.
A lot of custom. My favorite part, honestly, I'm going to tell you that right now. My favorite thing that happened was when the Spellforge goes on and that thing just drops right on top of it. It's like boom, and like I was like, oh my god, that was
lava.
Great. The cutouts and stuff and the layers and stuff, trying to make stuff work. That was super fun. Some of the maps, most of the maps I bought or adjusted. I bought them and I fixed them up. The Lost Mine of Phandelver map I bought from a Patreon person who makes maps professionally and he sells them. And then I changed it. I'll put his name down in the bottom to the map maker I use. He does phenomenal work, but I paid the higher level one where I get the Photoshop files from him, and that way then I changed. I adjust them and stuff because I would never take a person's personal map without talking to them and change it. Also found a lot of stuff on like Encarta and stuff that were like community stuff, and I just changed that because it's community.
Were there any moments where we threw you for a loop, or where you were surprised by things that we were doing?
Oh, all the time. I mean, countless times. Not just in the fact that you ran off somewhere, but like little things that you guys would pull powers out, and I'm like, oh, I forgot you had it, or I hadn't realized you had those things, or like
that's one of those where it's kind of 6v1 almost. Those moments.
Yeah, where you're like, ooh, I didn't plan for this. This is not going to go good for me. That kind of stuff. I would say, I think the best part of you guys is that, especially being a YouTube thing, is that you guys went with the flow on things. Because sometimes, like, just for the sake of time, we just move things forward. You know what I mean? Like I let you do things, or we made things happen. Whereas, like, I know a lot of DMs where I played it, like you could spend 3 nights trying to get a bell out.
Yeah.
like no, let's get this wrapped up in a half hour at most. Like, it could be an event,
sure,
but let's not make it because people want to. You're doing it for yourself, but also you're like, let's just kind of make it happen. There's no reason we have to go 3 nights to do that.
That's a good point. Yeah. But I mean, even without the YouTube channel being involved with that stuff, actually, that makes more sense anyways, right? Sort of keep the story moving and working on that. So
I mean, we do that a lot. I mean, I did when I run the game. I think if I could give any advice to new dungeon masters, don't let the story slow down because you want your players to have a certain something happen,
like a specific thing,
right? If you're waiting for them to do something, that is on you. And there are often times where I had puzzles or traps or things, and the players come up with something, and it's like you know what? That's not the real answer. That's not the one I wrote in the book.
But it works.
But it's fun and it makes it work, and they're having a good time. And that's it. Now that's the new answer. And no, the players never know. They have a good time. You get through it. Make them think about it a little bit, but they come. Let's do this. That's the thing. That's fine. Don't make it. In fact, don't make it the game ground to a halt. Just keep things moving. That's the best. That's my best strategy. I don't have any other DM advice. I mean, make monsters. Sure, like there's all these tiny nitpicky things as DMs you can do to be better game masters. Be the Matt Mercer and describe everything. Have 50 different voices, and none of that stuff matters as long as you keep everything. People come to the table because the thing is, if they come to the table and they're bored, they're not going to want to come back.
Yeah. I noticed that part of it, and I think that made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
cool.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up and get on with the next set of stuff we have going on. So okay. So let's let me see here. I had written some stuff down, but we were all talking, so I'm not sure where we left off here. All right. So we'll be revisiting the Sword Coast again. I'm just going to let everyone know. But I think it won't be probably not our next D&D game. We might do something else in between. I'm not sure. they're giving us a clear break from this game at least. I don't want to go every game as being like the one continuous story. So
I feel like off-screen downtime would be great for our characters.
And I think
to grieve.
Yeah, some need to get some rest.
Get emotion
in peace.
A little peace, yeah.
Forever.
And maybe excitement again, because you've been away from it for a while. But I'm not, so I've invited everyone to bring their characters back of any type if they want. And we could always find crazy ways to make even anything happen. As these guys know in my other games, we've had crazy things happen. But I'm not going to ask them until we get closer to that game. So you guys can think about things, but also your 9 might change. So I don't expect anybody to shout out an answer now. I want you to be free and clear to decide stuff later. So don't say anything about that now. But once again, thanks everybody for joining us and staying with us. I appreciate it. We'll have plenty of adventures to come. So just know that no matter what we do, we're going to do our best to always finish our games that we play. We're not going to leave you hanging with like some 3 out of 4 done and then just never finish it. And we're always going to have a good time. And always just answer questions, ask questions down there, ask anything about our game. If you have questions about anything that your game is having, I mean, we're not pros, but we're certainly not beginners. So
we have, I don't know, between at least 150, 200 years of experience. Okay?
Yeah, but it depends on what you want, right?
We're expert players.
If you want to learn how to be, if you want acting experience, maybe not us, but that's okay. All right.
Well, Graham.
Yeah. Well, Graham. Right. Graham's got he's got 20 something years of acting experience. The rest of us just kind of struggle. We're on the struggle bus. That's okay. We have fun. That's all that matters. All right. Well, you guys have a great night. We'll see you all in the next adventure.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Like, subscribe, all that stuff.
Yeah. All
bye, everyone.
Bye.